Welcome to the Explainer. Next time you pop a headache pill or your daily vitamin, take a second to really look at it. You're probably just thinking about the active ingredient, right? The medicine that's actually doing its job. But what about the capsule holding it all together, or the coating keeping that tablet intact? It turns out that everyday capsule shell has a completely hidden, incredibly complex background. It's governed by rules that date back centuries, yet those exact same rules are literally pushing the absolute cutting edge of modern chemical engineering. So, is your medicine halal? It sounds like a straightforward question, but man, it opens up this massive global supply chain. For millions of people around the world, taking a daily medication isn't just a medical choice, it's a profoundly religious and ethical one. We really have to step back and consider what exactly goes into our everyday pills and whether those raw ingredients meet some incredibly strict, uncompromising standards long before they ever hit our medicine cabinets. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll define what makes medicine halal. Second, we'll look at the strict rules of production. Third, we'll take a deep dive into gelatin. Fourth, we'll see how halal gelatin is actually made. And finally, we'll wrap up with some really cool innovations in capsule material. All right, part one, what makes medicine halal? Let's define the scope of pharmaceuticals here. Before we get into the rules, what exactly is the playing field? Because we aren't just talking about a standard tablet in a bottle. The definition is way broader than that. We're talking about finished dosage forms for both prescription and non-prescription products. This encompasses highly advanced biopharmaceuticals and radiopharmaceuticals, right alongside your traditional and even investigational medicines. And it's not just about what you swallow. This covers anything injected, implanted under the skin, or even applied topically as a cream. Every single one of these delivery methods is subject to intense scrutiny. Moving to part two, the strict rules of halal production and the principles of Sharia law in medicine. How do these principles practically apply to all those medicines we just defined? Well, it all stems from the foundational guidelines governing halal and haram in food and drinks. A halal pharmaceutical has to meet some absolute, non-negotiable criteria. First up, absolutely zero human parts, so no placenta, no blood, and definitely no L-cysteine extracted from human hair. No way. Second, no forbidden animals, like pigs, and any permitted animals must be strictly slaughtered according to Sharia law. It also completely bans genetically modified organisms that are decreed as nauseous, which basically means ritually unclean. But it goes way beyond just the ingredients. The equipment itself has to be completely clean and uncontaminated by najis. Products must be strictly separated during storage and distribution, and crucially, they can't contain any substance that would endanger the consumer. And these rules literally shape the physical manufacturing process from day one. From sourcing compliant materials to specific processing steps, you're looking at totally separate facilities, equipment, and utensils. If contamination ever does happen, there's a specific ritual cleansing called samak that has to be performed. Even during distribution, they use different load carriers in dedicated warehouses just to prevent cross-contamination. It's essentially a massive, religiously secure, clean room environment spanning across multiple facilities. The sheer scale of this value chain is honestly mind-blowing. It goes so far beyond just manufacturing and logistics. To maintain true halal integrity, even the secondary supply chain processes, we're talking about wastewater treatment and laboratory testing equipment, have to be strictly monitored and compliant. The entire ecosystem, right down to the water going down the drain, is part of the certification process. Section 3 is our deep dive into gelatin, the ubiquitous pharmaceutical ingredient. Why zero in on gelatin? Because it sits right smack in the center of the halal certification challenge. See, gelatin is derived from collagen, which is a fibrous protein found in connective tissues and bones. But not all gelatin is created equal. We've got type A gelatin, which uses an acid process mainly on pig skin, featuring young collagen molecules. Then, on the other hand, we have type B gelatin. This uses an alkaline and acid process, primarily on cattle skin and bone, and it's got this older, densely cross-linked complex triple helix collagen molecule. Now, for a halal supply chain, type A, because it's derived from pork, is strictly haram, or forbidden. So if the pharmaceutical industry wants halal certification, they have to pivot exclusively to type B cattle, bone, and hide, and they have to ensure those cattle were actually sourced and processed under Sharia guidelines. Now, you might be wondering, hey, I only take compressed tablets, not those squishy capsules. Does this affect me? Well, guess what? Gelatin is hiding right in plain sight. Aside from the active ingredient, a tablet needs excipients just to work. Gelatin frequently acts as a diluent to add bulk, a binder to keep the tablet from crumbling after it's compressed, and a disintegrator to actually help it break up once you swallow it. Even in a tiny 6 microgram vitamin B12 tablet, the vast majority of that pill's weight can actually just be gelatin acting as a binder. But for sure, gelatin is the absolute star when we look at capsule shells, what the industry calls the gelatinous envelope. It perfectly encloses the active substance. But these gelatin envelopes are way more than just tiny buckets holding medicine. They are highly engineered. They can be designed to stay completely intact for hours after you swallow them, to delay absorption, or they might contain a mix of slow and fast-release particles to give you rapid and sustained medication in the exact same dose. It's the unique chemical properties of gelatin that make this highly controlled medical delivery even possible. Section 4. How halal gelatin is made. We're looking at the massive industrial process of bone gelatin. Knowing we absolutely have to use type B cattle bones, how do we turn a raw bone into a pure pharmaceutical-grade capsule? Well, it takes a massive industrial effort, but we can break the complex chemistry down into 4 main phases. First up is demineralization. The bones are treated with dilute hydrochloric acid to strip away the calcium salts. What you're left with is this spongy bone collagen called ossein. Step 2 is liming. That ossein is treated with calcium hydroxide, basically lime, and water for a really long time. Step 3 is extraction and concentration, where the limed ossein is washed, extracted with hot water, and then concentrated using massive stainless steel evaporators. Finally, step 4, sterilization and chilling. It gets heated up to a crazy 140 degrees Celsius, and then it's quickly chilled until it congeals. Believe it or not, at this stage, it actually comes out looking kind of like noodles. The industrial scale required here is just staggering. Processing bovine bone involves an incredibly intensive, multi-step filtration system. Through rigorous acidulation, alkaline treatments, and just constant washing, the ultimate goal is to make sure the final product is not only halal, but medically pure and 100% safe for human consumption. And you need specialized machinery for every single step of this massive operation. A totally critical component is the use of high-tech, enclosed stainless steel evaporators. These are absolutely essential because they keep the microbiological system entirely clean and uncontaminated from start to finish. From there, the material moves to vodators that chill the gelatin into those noodles we talked about, and then down to high-tech belt dryers before it's finally milled, blended, packed, and shipped out. Finally, Section 5, innovations in capsule material. We're exploring sustainable and halal alternatives. Because sourcing purely halal bovine bone is incredibly stringent and resource-heavy, scientists are actually turning to the ocean. Cutting-edge research is exploring an ingenious alternative: fish, specifically the Pangasius fish. By utilizing fish waste products like the skin and swim bladders, which are universally considered halal in Islamic dietary law, researchers are developing a totally novel and highly sustainable source for pharmaceutical gelatin. And the results are seriously incredible. Hard capsule shells made entirely from fish skin, swim bladders, or a mixture of both look, function, and behave exactly like traditional bovine or porcine capsules. It's just a brilliant example of taking a rigorous ethical constraint and turn it into a total triumph of sustainable engineering. So, what does this all mean for us? The rules governing what makes a medicine halal aren't just some niche religious checklist. They dictate a massive, global, highly scientific supply chain. But it really leaves us with a compelling question. How will this push for alternative, highly scrutinized sourcing reshape the future of the entire global pharmaceutical industry? Could strict ethical guidelines actually be the exact catalyst that drive us toward a more sustainable, innovative future for all medicine? Definitely something to think about the next time you reach for a capsule. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.